Thank you, Eleanor. Firstly, can I work out if I've got any allies in the room? Hands up, any other lawyers? Oh, there's a couple.
Okay.
Yes, top notch. Some good alumni out there somewhere. So we'll huddle together for Warmth later on. If they throw anything at me, come to my rescue. So I have to ask that question because I guess there isn't going to be a lot of sympathy for some of the things that I'm going to say about the future of the legal profession as I go through today's little talk. Because when Eleanor first said that she wanted me to come along to speak tonight, I had some hope that maybe she was going to ask me to talk about something that I knew a lot about. So maybe it was going to be about, I don't know, trends in sourcing contracts or the future of outsourcing or minutiae of service level agreements, all those kind of things that keep me awake at night. But no, she said, I want you to talk about the changing face of work. What am I going to say about the changing face of work? And I thought that maybe I could do something about technology and the way that we're all going to be wearing Google Glass in a few years' time. Well, I wouldn't have got that right, obviously. I thought, well, maybe I can make it a little bit more personal. I can look back in time to what life was like when I started as a lawyer many, many moons ago, and then track how things have changed for the legal profession over the course of those 20-something years, and where we are now, and then perhaps where we're going to go. And then perhaps show you that it's not just the legal profession, although I'll use that as an example to show how things change, but that there are very close parallels to pretty much every other professional services organisation, and in fact I think most other organisations full stop. So let me take you back, if I may, back to the heady days of 1990, when a fresh-faced young lawyer arrived for the first time at his desk, sat down, and this was a desk which had no computer. It had a dictaphone. And that was the source of all of my work. And I was going to have to learn how to use this dictaphone. I was going to have to dictate every single thing that I did. There was a book that arrived on my desk every morning. It was a big blue book, and in it was my post. And that post would have come in from other law firms, from clients, or whoever it was that was writing to me at the time. And that post would all have been read by my supervising partner. So everything that was coming into me, and then everything that I would send out, would be read by my supervising partner. So it's pretty good risk management from that perspective, as you might think. Also, if you think about the process for the day, I would dictate a letter, it would go to a secretary. We had quite a few of them in those days. She would type it up, it would come back to me, I'd look at it, I'd amend it, correct a few typos because my dictaphone usage wasn't very good. But then I'd have some time to think. Maybe at the time since I got the letter back, I'd thought of some more points, some more really killer arguments as to why my position was right. It would go back to the secretary, maybe it would come back again, then it would go to my supervising partner who would probably rip it all up and cover it in red and tell me I was all wrong. But there was a lot of thinking time, a lot of analysis that went on. Things weren't very quick, therefore. It took quite a lot of time to turn around things with the other side, but you had a lot of process. So all that was very, very effective. Now, what it also meant was that law firms really had then the chokehold on providing advice to their clients. So there weren't very many in-house clients, in-house lawyers in 1990. We worked directly with businesses, directly with executives in various companies. There were some in-house lawyers, but there weren't very many. So in sourcing terms, we had a situation of service provision, point-to-point service provision between a customer organisation and their lawyers. Let's then move to the next stage of evolution, if you like. The Big Bang in the city in particular, the growth of regulation, globalisation of business and the very first signs of e-commerce. What that meant for law firms is we got big very, very quickly. In many ways, the mid to late 1990s were probably the salad days of the legal profession. To put it in context, when I started in the law firm I joined had 22 partners. And it was something like the 19th or 20th biggest firm in the city. Now, that number of partners wouldn't even get you in the top 200. But we grew very, very quickly because all of a sudden, customer organisations were realising that they needed lawyers and they needed them really, really badly. And the law firms had one very, very key advantage. They had a monopoly of knowledge. And so nobody else had the access to all those wonderful law books that we had. The law library that we actually had with physical books, remember them? Leather-bound spines? We had the knowledge which the clients didn't have. So what happened was that they outsourced to us. Lock, stock and barrel. Whole functions were outsourced to us to provide legal services. To use an example, and one of the clients I started working with quite early on was PwC Consulting. now part of IBM. And they were growing exponentially in the late 1990s, 20-30% year-on-year growth, driven by things like the Y2K bug, for those of you old enough to remember that. What a great salad days those were. And they just had too much legal work coming through the door to cope with, so they outsourced, and out it came to us. Now what happened then next, however, was a change which was driven in no small part by technology, because the internet came along in a big way. The e-commerce bubble, the advent of the first time people had laptops and were able to connect from home. So a couple of things then happened beyond just the fact that all of us discovered the internet and all the things that go with it, and I don't mean to presume what you might use the internet for. But what it did mean was that suddenly there was a greater degree of flexibility in the way that people worked. You were no longer chained to your desk. So I would be willing to bet that many customers back in the early 90s or before didn't see their lawyers very often. Lawyers didn't go out and work with the clients in the way that consultants do now, or that maybe law firms do a little bit more now. They were pretty much confined to their offices. The moment you have a laptop, however, even if it's not connected in the way it was now, lawyers became more mobile. People also started to work from home a bit more. And that was of a particular advantage to the in-house lawyers who'd be able to recruit people who were interested in working more flexibly, wanting to get off the hamster wheel that maybe working in big law firms is all about. So suddenly the in-house legal departments were able to recruit more people, be more flexible, and they gained access to all of these wonderful knowledge databases and online repositories that the internet offered to them. So that knowledge imbalance began to even up. So what we then saw was more growth of the in-house legal communities, more work coming back to the companies, building up their own in-house legal teams. So we saw insourcing. Okay, so a little bit of reversal of the trend. Guess what happened next? Well, law firms don't sit around, we try and innovate ourselves. We started to spend a lot more time trying to think about how we could be innovative in the way in which we delivered services. I, for example, at the moment, are probably spending more of my time developing software products of one sort or another than I am in providing black letter law. What we also saw was that law firms started to feature more on panels for clients. They didn't rely just on one law firm anymore, just because that's the firm they'd always used. They would appoint 2 or 3, so get a best-of-breed approach. So they were multi-sourcing. The same kind of trend that many of us have seen in our own organisations, that's happened to us too. What we're seeing now, however, is a next evolution. Clients are demanding more from their law firms. They don't just want us to be clever lawyers. They don't want us to have a nice clever turn in the way in which we negotiate. They say, I want you to deliver me more value. And I want you to deliver more value by doing more for me for less. I want you to be thinking better about how you can reduce my spend, make my processes smoother. So we have commoditization of our services. We are looking to offshore more. We are outsourcing not just back office functions, what's often referred to legal process outsourcing, but real legal work is going offshore. And that's a trend, I think, which is going to continue even more over the next few years. Exactly the same issues that have afflicted, or some say supported, the IT industry over the course of the last 10 years, happening to the legal services market as well. But it's not going to stop there. So I was very interested in listening to Barry's talk where he was talking about AI, obviously not the bit involving pigs, and automation and robotics, because in a funny way, I think that is the future for the legal profession. Because if you think about what you use a lawyer for now, we're beyond the point where you just need them to tell you what the law is. Any bit of advice which just recites to you the law, that's not a proper lawyer. Because you can get that from the internet. What you're trying to get from a lawyer is experience, options, the way it could be done in different ways, and a recommendation. And the recommendation is the intelligence bit. We may not be there yet, but with things like Siri and some of the enablement you see with that, I don't think we're far off being able to ask a question through something like a Siri tool or something from a legal equivalent to say, I've got this issue in my contract, what are my options? And for that tool then to go hunting on the internet for people who've written clever articles, offering alternatives or thoughts based upon their experience in real projects, and say, well, there was this thing that Kit said, and this is the option that he suggested, and then to present it to you. And the moment we get then beyond that to artificial intelligence then giving you a recommendation and advice based upon that, then I'm not sure there's that much of a role left for us lawyers. So take the food out of the mouths of my kids, have some sympathy for us. Lawyers are people too.